In the closing days of his 2024 presidential campaign, Donald Trump has decided to become increasingly violent with his rhetoric. Now, it all began just a few days ago, obviously, when Donald Trump was talking about Liz Cheney and suggested that maybe she wouldn't be such a war hawk if she had to go over there and have guns pointed in her face. Specifically, he said, "Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it, when the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy." Now, the headlines, of course, said that Donald Trump threatens Liz Cheney. I don't see that as a threat as much, I guess, as the rest of the media, but I do think that that is actually not a horrible thing to say. To a degree, Donald Trump is right. Now, he's being super hypocritical, obviously, because Donald Trump is not anti-war. Anyone selling you that is selling you a lie. They're selling you a fiction that, of course, is refuted by his own record. This man was launching drone strikes. This man was killing civilians. He's not anti-war. This is a man who dodged the draft because his foot hurt. Oh, dear. Yeah, he's a coward. But at the same time, he does actually make a decent point about these war hawks in Washington, D.C. It's one thing to sit in a nice place of comfort where you're getting paid a couple $100,000 a year to send our young men and women to die in a war based on lies. That's not okay. And yeah, I do think they would be singing a different tune if they were the ones that had to take up arms and go overseas. However, the point is, he used this violent rhetoric, what's Liz Cheney going to do with a gun pointed in her face? That's not okay. And then, at a rally on Sunday, Donald Trump took it a step further. This time, he did issue what to me came across as a threat, when he suggested that members of the media at his rallies could be shot, and he wouldn't care. Here's the clip in case you haven't seen it.
A little bit of intelligence, and I have a piece of glass over here, and I don't have a piece of glass there. And I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much, because I don't mind that.
So in order to get to him, you would have to kill members of the press, which he says he's okay with. That is violent rhetoric, okay? I hope you can see the big gulf of difference between what he said about Liz Cheney, which, again, to a degree, is also not okay, but what he said about the media there, suggesting that he is fine if they get murdered, that takes things to a whole new level. Obviously, we have seen individuals arrested since Donald Trump became president back in 2017 when he was sworn in. He continuously called the media the enemy of the state, the enemy of the people. And so we did have multiple lunatics that were arrested while he was president because they had drawn up plans and were actually in motion to go and kill members of the press. That happened multiple times, by the way. So yes, we have seen that his threats against the media do result in his deranged supporters taking it as a call to action, a call to arms almost. And so that is not okay. Even the comments about Liz Cheney, this is why those are not okay, because Trump's saying, imagine her with a rifle pointed in her face, or 9 rifles, as he said. His supporters will think, oh, well, maybe he wants me to point the rifle. Maybe he wants me to shoot these members of the press. He said he doesn't care if they die. He says they're evil. He says they're bad. Maybe I should do something about it. By the way, there was a report a couple weeks ago where members of the press actually talked to other media outlets where they openly discuss the violent threats that they get while they cover Trump rallies. So you have these reporters that do, they have to go to these rallies because it's news, especially local reporters go to cover these things locally. And they've admitted, like, people will come up to me and say, I hope you die. They'll say, I hope you get dismembered, one of the women said. So these people are getting threats at the rally from the actual attendees. And when Donald Trump ups that rhetoric suggesting, hey, maybe you should be killed, that is when lives are in danger. And I do firmly believe that that is what Donald Trump did on Sunday. Now, that is not the only crazy, weird thing that happened at that rally. Because after he suggested, I wouldn't mind if members of the press died, he then said this, he immediately goes into this rant. I'm a very smart person. They refuse to, now they are saying that was the most brilliant speech. They're saying it's a weave. You go and then you're here. And then what happens is while you're here, there's a point having to do with that point, and you go wing, wing, and you come here, then you do another weave, knee, 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 and it's very complex. But then it gets very simple because it all comes brilliantly and beautifully together. Does it? Because that paragraph didn't come together. And it's, of course, humorous that you started it with, I'm very smart, and then you couldn't finish a single thought. Oh my God. I didn't misspeak when I read that, by the way, either. Those were all the words that he said in succession. That was me reading, flawlessly, I may add, because I'm very smart, his exact quote. And that's not even all of it. He then goes and says, and they actually acknowledge this total genius. They don't, not all of them do. They actually acknowledge this. They don't. Some do. They don't all do it. Those are contradictory statements that you wouldn't even be able to turn in if this was like a 6th grade English paper. What's even funnier is that Stephen Chung, campaign spokesperson, came out after the rally and said this. President Trump was brilliantly talking about the 2 assassination attempts on his own life, talking about his threats to the media, including one that came within 1/4 of an inch from killing him. Something that the media constantly talks and jokes about. The president's statement about protective glass placement had nothing to do with the media being harmed or anything else. It was about threats against him that were spurred on by dangerous rhetoric from Democrats. In fact, President Trump was stating that the media was in danger and that they were protecting him and therefore were in great danger themselves and should have had a glass protective shield also. There can be no other interpretation of what was said, according to Stephen Chung, who hopefully, after today's election results, will have to return to his old job of jumping out on bridges and forcing people to solve his riddles before he lets them pass. But that's what happened on Sunday. In my opinion, a direct threat against the media, or at least a dog whistle to his supporters that he doesn't care if these people get killed, and him ranting about how smart he is while he is completely unable to finish a sentence, followed up, of course, by the cave troll Stephen Chung, defending every second of it, because that's what that freak gets paid to do. Thanks for watching today, everybody, and don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it! You can follow the links in the description of this video.